When I was 15 years old, my mom and I lived in a duplex. When you walk through the front door, the living room is first, then the kitchen. There's a door frame in the living room which led to a section where it splits in three. To the left was my mom's room, in the center the bathroom, and to the right my room. I wouldn't have considered it a hallway. Anyways, it was the beginning of summer, so being a kid and all, I stayed up late playing the Xbox. One night I was playing some Assassin's Creed and my lamp kept turning from high to low to off. I had one of those touch lamps, so I thought it was just quitting on me, so I ignored it even though it never did any of that to begin with. Fast forward to the next day, a few friends came over, it was daytime, and we were in my room chatting about nonsense until we hear a noise coming from the kitchen. My mom wasn't home, so it was weird. It sounded like two glasses were clanking together, and when we went to go check we saw some glasses on the counter, but they were on opposite sides. We ignored it. Nighttime comes around, mom's asleep already and I was playing the game and I hear a bang on my wall on the bathroom side. It wasn't a medium type bang either, it was a loud ass bang which scared the living shit out of me. I tossed my controller and ran to my bed, leaving the Xbox and TV on. I'm facing the wall with my entire body covered and I start to feel the edge of my bed sink in, like someone is sitting with me. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I didn't know what to do. Morning came, mom's day off, and I told her what happened, from day one. Of course she didn't believe me. See, we also had two chihuahuas living with us and my mom said if they didn't bark or growl while they stared into the darkness then we were fine, that there was nothing to be afraid of. But I was freaked out to the point where I stayed up all night and slept all day. I also left all the lights on while I stayed awake at night. One weekend my cousins stayed over. My room was pretty big, so I had two beds in there, one queen and a twin, so we all would fit. It was about 12 a.m. and we were watching Insidious Part 1. My mom was out with some friends and we got to the part where the dad is trying to unchain his son and red face appears, and right when that happened someone or something banged on my bedroom door, like angry banged. We jumped and screamed. We didn't have enough guts to go check, so I messaged my mom and she was still out. The dogs were with us in the room and they didn't do anything. Worthless, I tell ya. After finding that out we all freaked out. Someone was crying. We changed the movie, talked for a bit and fell asleep. I'm not sure, till this day, what was going on. But one day I took a mirror picture in my mom's room, and when I was looking at it to see if I liked it, her bed was right behind me in the picture. Right there on her bed in the picture you can see a silhouette of a man laying on her bed. I ended up showing her. She freaked and we moved. It never did any hurting, just scaring. I guess it was having fun scaring us. I didn't like it one bit. Let's flash back to 2012. I was 12 years old, and not a believer in any of this stuff. My parents and I were staying in my aunt's house in Hoboken, New Jersey. It was a 3-story house that was extremely old. So old, it had a staircase that was used just for servants back in the day. Anyway, we're staying on the 3rd floor, which always gave me weird vibes, but this summer night it got crazy. My parents took the only bedroom upstairs, so I took the small living room that had a leather couch and small TV. I felt really creeped out that night, so I kept the TV on. I heard some footsteps in the kitchen next to where I was sleeping, so I got up to see if it was one of my parents, and I saw nothing when I flipped the light on. So I laid back down and I heard the footsteps again, but this time closer. I got up again, flipped the light, and once again, nothing. But this time it felt like someone was looking at me, but I once again wasn't a believer, so I just went back to the couch and flipped the light off. The TV was still on, which casted some light. I finally got tired and let out a yawn and cleared my throat. Right after that happened, a voice in the doorway went hush. And then the TV went to the white static screen at full volume. I froze. I felt someone looking at me in the doorway, but I didn't have the guts to look. I felt it staring at me all night and I remained frozen, just staring at the static TV. Once the sun started to come up, the presence lifted and the TV went back to normal. And that had to be one of the scariest experiences in my entire life. Safe to say I've been a believer ever since. When I was about 3, my mum would see me playing and chatting away to myself. She said I did this until I was about 6, but the thing is my parents asked me one night who my friend was, and I told them he is John. My brother. Mummy, you know him? Now this surprised my mum and dad, as I did have a brother who they were going to name John, and he was my twin who died at 6 months old. I was never told about John due to until I was 4 months old. I was in and out of hospital as apparently I would not drink milk or anything unless I was laid next to this other little boy. Doctor's idea with other parents' permission. They think in my own way I knew he was missing and I was grieving. Now move on till about 8 years old, and I swear every time me and my brothers walked up the stairs in the dark, it always felt like someone was behind us. In bed at night I swear I felt like someone was sitting next to me, and my younger brother also felt this. My mum is sure she also saw a little boy one evening walk past the kitchen door when we were all asleep. So now as an adult and since back then I always say good night to John, and morning to him. A few years ago I stayed at a friend's house. Her house had some unusual activity every now and then. We were always alone, especially at night, and that's when we would notice or hear things. One night we decided to go sit on the front porch and just talk, but before that my friend had to use the bathroom, so I waited for her in the kitchen. Now, the bathroom is pretty far from the kitchen and I was waiting for a while. After a couple of minutes of waiting I started to hear my name being called, more like a whisper. Of course I'm looking around, but there was no one there. We were alone. It was a voice of a lady. She said my name about 3 times until my friend comes walking out of the hallway. And yes, I asked if she was calling me, but being very informative and all, she said no because she was taking a shit. We moved on. We went outside to go relax, and not even 5 minutes later we hear this blood-curdling scream coming from the darkness. My friend and I look at each other and hauled ass back inside. We didn't want to think anything of it, but it was a scream of a woman. We didn't ask questions. We locked the door and went straight to her room and forgot about it. The next day we asked the neighbors if they heard anything. They said no. Till this day we still talk about it. Was it the same lady calling my name? So this isn't really my story, but in a way I was part of it. I've had many experiences in my 22 years of life, but we'll save them for another time. So this takes place back in 2015, when I was 17 and my cousin was 15. She one day had this extremely weird experience, which does sound like she was seeing things, but I genuinely believe her and what she saw. One day she was in her house and she was looking for her ma'am, and she saw what she thought was her through the kitchen window, so she went outside to see her standing in a white dress. Pegging the washing up, she only saw the back of her, but she thought it was extremely odd because it's not something she wears, and she seen her earlier and she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. She looked away and looked back and she disappeared, so she went back in the house and looked for her again, only to find her upstairs in her jeans and t-shirt. So she asked her if she was outside in a white dress, and she replied, I don't have a white dress other than my wedding dress. I've been up here the whole time. So yeah, basically they were spooked to say the least. Also want to mention that there was no other women or girls in the house. There's my cousin's ma'am and 2 brothers. Not long after, maybe 2 weeks, she had another experience where she was chasing their dog in the garden, and when she looked up towards the end of the garden, there she was again, except this time she was picking apples. She never really saw her face, which I suppose is a good thing. But she was wearing the same white dress, in a way just minding her own business. I remember going to their house and we were talking about it, and me and my cousin decided to look up this woman in white. We were reading it out and kinda joking about cause we didn't really believe it. Like we believe in ghosts as a family, but we didn't believe that it could be connected, if you get me. We found this story of the white lady, and the legend goes that a white lady is fabled to appear by day as well as by night in a house in which a family member is soon to die. A couple of months later, on September 25th, our other cousin had a fatal motorbike accident and passed away on the 26th. You can argue that it was just a coincidence, but honestly the chills that ran down my spine when the realization hit was indescribable. My cousin hasn't seen the woman in white since, and that's now 5 years ago. I also want to mention that my cousin was fine with me sharing this. We're able to happily talk about each other's experiences. It's always been thought that my childhood home was haunted. It's an old New England-style home built in 1929. Growing up, my siblings and I have heard footsteps, a woman's voice, kitchen cupboards opening and closing, and have had some pretty vivid nightmares. Sometimes, both my brothers will have the same nightmare, the same night. Creepy. Anyways, a couple summers ago, while I was home from school, activity really started picking up. I remember one morning I was the first one up, which was odd because my mom was typically always up before me. I heard her alarm going off from her room, but she wasn't snoozing it or turning it off. It was like she didn't even hear it. I got up and started heading downstairs to the kitchen, but before I got out of my room, a very large black mass the shape of a person walked out of my youngest brother's room, right next to mine, and into my mom's room, directly across the hall. I thought it was my brother, so I began calling to him, asking what in the world he was doing. It was odd because although it was very early in the morning, there was still enough light to see all around, but the black mass stayed exactly that, a black mass. No features, no face, just black. After not getting a response, I began to realize this mass wasn't my brother. It completely ignored me and headed to the foot of my mom's bed where she slept peacefully, alarm clock still going off. I stood frozen in my tracks and watched this thing, I really don't know what to call it, slowly move to the side of the bed, facing towards me, and although I couldn't see any eyes, I knew it was looking right at me. Then it ever so slowly slinked down next to my mother. She didn't even flinch. After that, I ran downstairs. Later in the day, I asked my mom, to be sure, if my brother laid down with her in the morning. She answered me no. I also asked my brother if he got up early for whatever reason and went into my mom's room. He told me he was in his room from when he went to bed until he woke up at 10 later that morning. So I have no idea what I saw. Even though it scared the crap out of me, I didn't feel like it was going to harm me. I also don't know what to piece of it. Was it making itself known? Why did it go to my mom? And she didn't even notice? I guess I just want an answer to what I saw. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.